Hey everyone, it's Boardman21, and today's going to be a guide on the 8 endgame bosses. We're going to have one from all of the timelines and two from timeline 7. We're going to have the 3 dragons along with the Emperor. And what we're going to do is basically I'm going to be playing the Werebear, which is another build I have, so if you're curious in it, the link will be below. And I'm just going to let myself take a bunch of hits. I'm going to face tank them, but I'm going to let you see the mechanics. I'm going to talk about them a little bit, how you would dodge them, how much damage they do, which ones you should dodge, which ones don't really matter, what type of damage they're doing. I don't get into too much more details than that. Some of the time music will be playing, I'll actually do the entire boss fight and actually kill them. So when the music's playing, you're going to notice that the boss is just being killed, and you can just sit there and watch the animation so you know what it is that's actually hitting you. And as you watch it, you might learn, hey, maybe I should dodge that. Oh, if I do this, I can dodge that. There's some tips and tricks for certain things, like on the God Hunter, that if you stay to the right side of him, the spiral, fire aura, area of effect things that he fires off actually won't touch you. If you want a more detailed list, things like exactly what all types of damages are and what fixes in the mono that you should not give them before going into the boss fight, Mcfluffin has been doing some videos on one boss at a time and really getting into deep detail. I'm going to link his YouTube channel below, and you should definitely check him out if you want more details in what you should do. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, first up we have the Abomination. Now once he's done spawning, you'll notice that he'll start attacking you. He's going to have several different types of attacks. He has a fire aura. He has what looks like a fireball, but it's more of like a rectangular streak of fire that goes, and then he has his normal harvest swipe that you see. Now, as he starts to attack you, you'll notice that he has only those 4 different moves. He's going to have his fire aura, his harvest swipe, his fireball, whatever you want to call it, that shoots off into a area attack, and then he's going to have this soul feast looking thing where he shoots out a white wind in a few different directions and it comes back. The only thing that you really need to be worried about at this point is dodging the fire, as those are what are going to hit you the hardest. His normal swipe harvest doesn't hit for very much damage. However, both of his fire moves will hit you pretty hard, so make sure that every time that you see that the orange is popping up, you just start moving real quick. Boom, they're easily dodgeable. His harvest swipe is not going to be that dodgeable, and he's going to do it often enough that you're going to have to just tank it. So getting some physical armor, some necrotic, is what's going to help you against his harvest swipe. But as you see here, and I only have 30% damage reduction, he's only hitting us when he does a swipe for about 50 damage, which is absolutely nothing. However, the fire attack that he does hits for about 400 damage. So again, the fire attack is what you're going to want to dodge. Now, at this point, maybe you've been hitting him a couple of times and you notice that you're not doing any damage. It's at this point that you'll probably read he's invulnerable until all the soul vessels are destroyed. Now, there are 4 soul vessels. So after you've hit him at least a couple of times, you'll notice that the soul vessels should pop up in the 4 corners. And honestly, I don't know why it's not working for this video. It must be that I sat here too long, but for some reason he's still popping up as what I should be attacking. But what you want to do is go to the corners. You're going to kill all 4 soul vessels. Now, once you've killed a soul vessel, the corner in which you killed it, that whole 90-degree area, is now going to light up with this necrotic looking gas, and that's going to do damage over time in ticks. So you want to make sure that once you've killed the soul vessel, you want to start moving on to the next area, and once you've killed all 4, you're definitely going to want to make sure you get back into the center of the map, because standing in that is also going to help kill you really quickly. Now, don't forget that while you're going for these soul vessels, the Abomination is going to be chasing you and still attacking you and still firing off his moves. So make sure to dodge that fire aura and fireball when he casts those. Now, once you kill all 4 soul vessels, you'll notice that the necrotic dot's going to be completely around you, which means you want to get into the middle. Now, once you're in the middle, again, he's going to have the same move. He's going to have the fire aura. He's going to have the fireball that he shoots off. He's going to have his soul wisps that come and go. He's going to have this ground slam where he hits the ground, and it's like earthquake, where a rock will pop up out of nowhere. And It only does 28 damage, so his ground slam attack doesn't do very much damage. You don't have to be too worried about it, especially if you have physical armor. Again, here in this build, we do have a bit of armor. It's only 20% damage reduction, but due to that armor, that's all that you're going to need to be able to tank the Harvest Swipe and take his ground slam attack that he does. Now, once you actually start doing some damage, he's going to add in one new thing, and he'll do it here just after you've shortly damaged him, and it's these new necrotic damage over time circles. There'll be 4 of them. If you stand in them, they do about 50 to 100 damage depending on your defenses. Again, we don't have a whole lot of defenses here, but you'll see they tick really, really quick as they're damage over time, and standing in these can kill you. So you want to make sure that you're avoiding those at all cost. And just remember, whenever you see him light up, you just keep moving. He's going to miss you. Nothing really changes. At this point, at half health, he's the one boss that's not going to gain anything extra now that you're at half health, which is kind of unusual. But again, nothing changes. It's going to be all the same moves. So when you see the orange fire, that means he's about to fire the fireball. You want to move, stay out of the circles, and avoid his ground slam, although the ground slam and the swipe are the 2 things you can probably take and let hit you, and you're not going to die from them. And then, of course, he'll die. And just like that, you've beaten the Abomination. Alright, now we have the level 68 timeline, the Battle of Rahyeh the Black Sun, and I can tell you going into this fight, the thing that you're going to want is Void Protection. Of course, even if you don't have any, if you have some sort of other mechanic, like for us, we have Ward Generation with our missing life, we can easily just survive off of that, and we can even face tank it if we want. Now, there are several moves that Rahyeh is going to do. All of them are void typed attacks, so void damage again is going to be the main source of all damage that you take. All of these things are dodgeable, and as you can see, I'm dodging them right now with my character, and I'm just going to let him go through his cycle of all of his moves a couple of times so that you can see what you have to do. As you can see, he has his cone-shaped void attack that will come out in several different angles, and it goes counterclockwise, so all you have to do is run counterclockwise and you will be able to dodge all of those attacks. Another thing that he has is these big circle AoEs. Those ones are obvious, pretty easy to just get outside of it. He also has this swoop in attack where he'll fly across the map and leave this kind of dot void damage that hangs out. You just want to stay out of that for a couple of seconds. It'll disappear. He'll do his cone attack, pretty easily dodgeable. You'll always have one empty cone that you can go into next to the one that's about to go off. And then, of course, you just attack him. He'll have his void area effect that he shoots meteors down from the sky. Those aren't a huge deal. But again, all of these are dodgeable, so you can see what he's doing. They always go in the same cycle. He's always going to have his cone shape that he does, then he's going to fire a bunch of his AoE circles, and then he's going to air raid, where he flies across the screen, swoops in, and then lays down that void track that you want to stay out of. So again, cones first, he fires some enemies out for you, and then he's going to do his circles of death from the sky. After that, he might do a couple of his huge AoEs by himself. The number of those, I'm not sure if it changes, but he'll do a couple or a few of them. He'll do a ground slam, and then he's going to do his swoop across the screen where he'll lay down his dot for you not to want to lay into. And that is the cycle of his attacks. Here's a little bit of music while we kill him. And voila, you've beaten Rahyeh the boss. Alright, next we have the Timeline 62 boss, the God Hunter Arginus. Now, he has quite a few different attacks that he does, but most of them don't do very much damage, so you don't have to be too worried about it. But if you're wanting to know what protection, you basically just want physical protection, and that should protect you from most of everything that he does, or at least enough of the damage mitigated. Now, you can also do elemental damage so that you can get fire damage. He does some cold. So elemental damage plus armor is the best route. In our case, again, we just have the ward gen so that we can take some hits while we show this. Now, you'll see that all of these bosses go through the same cycle of events. So, his very first attack that he's going to do is going to be the big circle spiral that spirals out of fire AoEs, and all you have to do is stand basically where you are to begin with, and you shouldn't get hit by any. So if you really pay attention to that, it's going to start from underneath him and then spiral out, and when I'm on the right side of him, it won't hit me. So if you stand on the right side right when he does that attack, you'll notice that it starts underneath him and it actually goes all the way around you and it doesn't hit you. So you'll actually be missed by the whole thing. It may look daunting when you see it, you're like, holy shit, and you might try running away. If you try running away, you're almost guaranteed to get hit. Just stay on the right side of him and it will start underneath him and spiral out, and you will not get hit by any of those explosions. You'll see that I'm just taking the regular 3 to 9 damage from the little bit of bleed or ignite or whatever it is that he put on me. Alright, his attack after he does the spirals of death, as you've probably been watching, is that he's going to have these crossbows that fire randomly, and those are dodgeable. We'll get into that in one sec. But he has this ice attack that goes in one direction. All you need to do when he does that is after the spirals have all finished up, you want to start sidestepping him. So we'll do this in live time here for you. You're going to watch him do his spiral effect, which is about to go off, and then you just want to move after that's gone, and voila, the ice attack misses. Now, he does a couple of spear jabs. As you can see, he has his, if you get too far away from him, he'll do that little almost fire golem jab. When he does the ice thing, stay out of it. There's no reason to attack him right now. Just run away, let him do what he's doing, get back in, and get some attacks while it's going, and you can sidestep when he does the jab. The other thing that's going to be happening the entire time, and it's not really, it's on a timer of its own, it's different from the attacks that he's doing, is you're going to have these crossbows hitting you. Now, they don't do very much damage, but if you seem to be dying from them, they are easily dodgeable. The moment that they start going, they're going to track you for a couple of seconds and then they stop. The moment that they stop, you no longer need to try and dodge them. You can just wait a second, sidestep, boom, they're done. Wait for them to attack you, wait a second, sidestep, boom, done. Now, after you've gotten him down to half-life, what's going to happen is he actually disappears and then he spawns all of these little mini god hunters, the little Osprix vanguards, and you just have to kill them for a bit. I don't know if it's after a certain amount of time or a certain number of them that you kill, he'll reappear, so just remember to be dodging the crossbows, sidestep them when you can. These guys don't do very much damage, so you don't have to be too worried about them. After you killed enough of them, he's going to respawn on the map. Now, once he's spawned back in, he's going to have one new attack that he does, and it's going to be where he jumps up and then he comes slamming down, and it's going to be a fire circle area effect that also shoots out in 3 different directions for a big distance. Once you see him jump up, and almost simultaneously the ground's going to turn orange. As soon as you see that coming, that's when you just want to start backing out and get out of that hit. Now, it doesn't do a huge amount of damage, but it can be enough on some builds if you don't have decent fire damage protection or physical damage protection. That it's going to kill you, as it can hit for decent amounts of damage. Now, the cycle of which he does that move can vary. It can come after his spear of cold damage, or it can come right before it, but their order can reverse. Sometimes he'll go cold and then he'll go fire, and sometimes he'll go fire and then cold. As you watch the gameplay here, you'll see the first time he went cold and then fire, and then after that he seems to be going fire and then cold. But as you can see, you can replay this a few times, watch the mechanics of it, and then just dodge it as you can, and you'll kill him. Next up, we have Lagoon. Now, Logan, or Lagoon, however you want to pronounce it, has a few attacks, but they're all highly telegraphed. For instance, the first attack, you're going to see the eye turns red, and when it doesn't duck down, that means it's a beam of light. So you have the beam of light. Then, when the eye is just red and he goes up, it's going to be a circle of death. After that, he does a couple of claw jabs, and what those do is that's going to stun you if it hits you. You can walk back and forth to be missed. When he ducks his head down, it means that he's going to lift his head up real quick and fire one straight beam in one direction, and then the whole cycle of events will start over again. The eye will turn red, he'll do his beam, his eye will turn red, he'll go up and do a circle of death, his head will go down, and he'll do a lift up real quick. And here's some music until we get him to half health. Now, once you've got him to half health, you'll be teleported down below, and what you do down here is you just have to kill the tentacles until you've killed enough of them that you'll spawn back up to the top. There's nothing that's really going to damage you too hard down here. The waves will do a little bit of damage. The tentacles do a little bit of damage. The mobs chasing you will hit you for a little bit of damage. Mostly only the waves are what do decent damage, but if you have cold and physical resistance, you're going to be just fine. So once you've killed enough of them, the screen will start to turn white. Once you get back up, you want to be very careful. Sometimes his eye is red right off the bat, which means you should just start moving. Don't worry about attacking. Just start moving and make sure that you're not in danger. He'll go through the exact same cycle that he did the first half, the second half. The only difference will be is if you have a modifier that gives him enraged at half health or anything that does anything at half health. And if you've done that, then it just means that he's going to go through them faster. And then you just have to move a lot more. But basically, you just keep going back and forth, dodge the red eyes, and eventually you'll work him down until he's died. And just like that, you've killed Lagoon. Next up, we have Formosus, who is a frost or very cold, like frostbite boss, which means you're going to want cold resistance. Now his attacks are pretty simple. The major one going to be this wave of dot cold damage that you're not going to want to stand in. Outside of that, he doesn't do very much damage, and he's going to be very easy to kill. I would be more worried about the random Wageri that's going to be going around trying to land an earthquake on you, as that's more likely to kill you. The other things that do some good damage are these cold dots that look like an explosion of ice and a cold cloud. Those are the other things that you're not going to want to stand in. But other than those, you're basically just going to keep following him around and attacking him. He'll randomly jump around the map a bit. He will place cold on the ground, which will give you not only slow but will also chill you. Those two things together can make your move speed quite slow, which can make it hard to get out of some of his attacks. If that does happen, it's always nice to have a movement skill. On the wave rare we have charge, however you have to have a target, but they're pretty easy. Once you see them, you know what's coming. You can just watch this a couple of times and you'll know exactly when you should start moving. Now, once you do get him down to half health, nothing changes. He doesn't get any random new abilities. He just keeps doing the same thing. So just keep doing what you're doing and follow him around the map and attacking him, and eventually you'll work him down until there's no life left. And just like that, he has died. Next up, we have Harton's Husk, who is the giant crab-looking thing that's normally lightning, but this time he's going to be completely void, and he'll have two sidekicks, will be the warm bosses that you met in the very first chapter, and they too are going to be attacking you from both sides, all three of them doing a lot of void. They don't hit too hard, as you can see. The side worms don't actually hit you, even if you stand in their void mix. It's not too terrible. However, if all three are hitting you at the same time, it can get a bit overwhelming. But as you can see in this, we have 8% void resist, so, and we're taking barely any damage. Now if you do stand in the middle of it, it does do some decent damage, and if you have both of them hitting you with their fire breathing void, those two together can do really good damage on top of being hit. So you don't want to stand in the same spot for too long, but this boss is actually pretty easy in terms of all you're going to do is just kind of keep making your way around him and make sure if the sidekicks start doing the little void breath, just sidestep out of that and you'll be perfectly fine. If you are struggling, just more void. Everything in this is void damage. Just get more void resistance and you'll be perfectly fine. Now, you can also kill the two sidekicks, but they have about the exact same amount of life as Harton, so it's going to take you 3 times longer of a boss fight in order to kill both of those and then kill the boss. You're better off just sidestepping whenever they start to do their attack, and you'll work your way and dwindle the boss down in no time. If you have enough void damage, or if you're wearing Orion's Eye because you're high enough level, you can just get more fire resist, and it won't take very much for you to be able to just face tank this one all the way through. I'm going to go ahead and play music until we beat him. And just like that, after a bit of time, you'll beat him. Once you get to the level 100 timeline, on the second quest you have your pre-boss, which is going to be the 3 dragons, which sometimes have different names, sometimes they'll just say Set, and you'll notice I have Ada, Baal, and Set. And basically you're just versing 3 dragons, and what you want to do is dodge the lightning blast. Now the last on timeline 6, the level 90 timeline, you went with a lot of void protection. On this battle you're going to want to go with a lot of lightning protection. They do a lot of lightning damage, so I recommend getting at least 50 to 60% lightning resist. Even more will be more helpful. Make sure that you get your 100% glancing blow. And in this one, it doesn't really matter if you kill all 3 at once or go in a certain order, but you will see that all 3 bosses tend to have a different effect. For instance, Ada has Volt, Barrage, and Static Breath, which can do quite a bit of damage. You have Lightning Breath and Static Breath and Lightning Explosion for Baal, and then for Set you have Lightning Breath and War. Now War can increase the attack speed and the cast speed of the other 2, so the Set is usually the one that I want to kill first just to get the buff away from the others, but it really doesn't matter if you have enough lightning damage. With these, if you do get into the explosions, you want to make sure that you get out of it. The large lightning explosion and the beams, the breath of lightning, are going to be the 2 things that do the most damage to you. So you just want to keep working yourself around in a circle as you do attacks. If you're ranged, you just obviously want to move around and stay away. As a melee character, just kind of keep working them into a circle. That's your best bet for being able to dodge all 3 of their attacks at the same time. And then when you see the big circle explosion, just get outside of it and then go back to working yourself in a circle around them, trying to avoid the lightning breath beams. And if you keep moving, you should be able to stay out of them. I'm going to go ahead and play some more music until we kill them. And just like that, all 3 of them will be dead. And the last boss that we'll be covering is the Emperor of Corpses, the large necrotic land dragon. Now his first move right off the bat is going to be this huge explosion, and then after the explosion you won't be allowed outside that circle of explosion because you will be taking a necrotic dot. He also has a necrotic breath, which is just like fire breath, except that it will be necrotic damage, and it's either a lot of hits or it's damage over time. I believe it does a lot of hits, and it hits really hard, so you want to make sure that you sidestep out of it. He'll have a little bit of a wind up, about a half a second, to give you a heads up that he's about to come down with his head, and he's going to breathe all that fire out, and that's your opportunity to start sidestepping. And if you're constantly on the move anyways, you're probably not going to get hit by it, but the closer you are to him, the less of the cone that you'll be in. So for melee characters, it's actually an advantage to be close, but also remember that even if you're underneath his head to where it doesn't look like you'd be in the breath, the actual damage hitbox of it starts from like his mid-body, so standing underneath his head, even though you're not in the graphics of it, will still hit you, and it hurts like a mofo. I'm going to go ahead and play some more music until we kill them. Just like that, he's dead.